should have another battle reenactment at 3 o'clock. But currently we're going to be doing a military vehicle parade for you. So I'll give you a little bit of background history as we kind of get started here. World War II began in 1939. It was really the first true mechanized war. There were, of course, trucks and vehicles in World War I, but they were not nearly that effective. Certainly not high speed. This is really the first true modern war that we can think of in that aspect. The first vehicle that we see here is an M5 Stuart tank. Now this goes back really to the cavalry doctrines that have been developed since the Middle Ages of heavy and light cavalry. Light cavalry becoming a thing with arquebusiers in the English Civil War about 1650. And that light and heavy cavalry doctrine will stay on once armor comes in, leading to the creation of light tanks and heavy tanks. Or in the case of the Sherman, medium tank. So this idea of light and heavy cavalry or light tanks that can go out, engage the enemy, do reconnaissance, but they're not really meant to stick around and fight. They might be able to run up and support the infantry, but for the most part they're going to be doing a little bit of fighting and then scurrying away and going somewhere else. That's what this tank is designed to do. That's the role it's designed to fill. It's a light tank. It has two twin Cadillac V8 engines in the back to power it, so it can go very fast. It has light armor, and as you can see, a very light gun. It's a 37mm gun. At the start of the war, this probably would have been effective for engaging with other tanks, but certainly by the end of the war, this is not good for anything except really anti-material stuff. Light armored vehicles, pillboxes, that sort of stuff. But they can run up, engage the enemy, with the infantry, support the infantry, turn around, and run away. The problem with them is that they're very tall, and so when the U.S. designed the infantry, they would cut the size down substantially of the light tank to make it a little bit less conspicuous. This takes a crew of 4, and this particular version would have seen service like 1944, 44, 45. There's the 83 store, which we actually have in the museum, a little bit earlier tank that would have seen service in North Africa. So you can kind of compare and contrast those the differences in those vehicles that you make inside the museum. we see here is a WC-56 weapons carrier. There's a couple other designations, WC-54, WC-52. They're all just different variations of this same design. This is built by Dodge, and this is part of the American arsenal of democracy, American mass production, American logistics story, in that all of these vehicles that were built by Dodge were built on the same platform. So there's a knockdown ambulance in the museum that is built off the same platform. The command car was built off the same platform as the WC-21 Power Wagon. So all of these vehicles basically use the same basic platform. And that means two things. First of all, it makes it easier to produce them because you're already tooled up. All you have to do is make a few minor changes, but you don't have to, have separate factories producing separate vehicles. You can basically produce the same basic vehicle and make minor modifications for it. You don't have to go through a retooling phase. The other thing that it does is it allows you to keep parts in the field for logistics for repair because everything uses the same parts. This truck would have been designed to carry troops in the back. Again, you could throw a weapon in the back, a machine gun or something. It is called a weapons carrier. But the idea for this thing really is that it's going to be your logistics handler. So this and the larger Goose and Half version built by GMC is what's shipping bombs, bullets, and everything to the front. You could put fuel in the back of this. Certainly the Red Bull Express used them. And the Red Bull Express is important because that's what was carrying fuel to the front. The Red Bull Express was basically if you use the term, the fuel pipeline. They didn't have a pipeline. They were running everything to the front in trucks. And so usually the Red Bull Express, you'd have something painted on these signifying that it was a Red Bull truck, and they didn't have to stop at checkpoints. They could just go straight through, straight to the front. So we saw the armored personnel carrier that's carrying troops into battle. This is what's going to be doing the bulk of the work behind the lines, getting troops to the front, getting supplies to the front, and just being the general workforce of the Army. These are pretty much all U.S. vehicles, but we'll see a German vehicle here and also a British vehicle as well. But every country, every nationality had their own versions of these vehicles. This one I probably shouldn't have to tell you what it is, but I'm going to anyway. This is a Jeep. Specifically, this is a 1941 Willys Overland NB. We call it a slat grill Jeep because the grill is made out of angle iron. If you go into the museum, you'll see some later variations that have more permanent grills on them, some of the Jeeps out here. But this is a very early design. We had a couple problems with this design. So actually, the Jeep was designed by Bantam in 1939. They were much smaller than this. A lot of those got sent to open. Consequently, the British started taking these Bantams all the time, whether they were Bantam or not. Because that was the technology that they were familiar with. But this was designed as a light reconnaissance car. Willys and Ford will pick these up and make some variations to design and really change the design into what we know today. Jeep comes from general purpose vehicle. These were the general purpose vehicle, GP. Well, that became Jeep. But the idea was that this was a reconnaissance car. It could be used just for general purpose transportation. It could carry a machine gun. You could put 4 guys in here and a radio and walk around, hop in it and do pretty much whatever you needed to. They say general purpose. They were designed to be light, and you can see these handholds on the side are actually designed to flip it over if it flips. 4 guys that are riding in it could literally supposedly pick it back up and flip it over. It was designed to be light. These, of course, became popular with American servicemen, and when they got home, Jeep moved into the civilian market, making, of course, what we know as the CJ, the CJ2A, 3A, and so on, leading to the Jeep craze today. The U.S. military will continue to use the Jeep up to the Vietnam War and slightly after, in different variations than this, but they're no longer used by the military today unless there's a design that I know about that's just come back into service. But, of course, they were replaced by the Humvee in the 1990s. Again, this one has a 50 caliber machine gun, but it can tow an anti-aircraft gun, light anti-tank gun, that kind of stuff. The next vehicle that we have here is basically the German version of the Jeep. It's a Kuba wagon. This one specifically is a replica of a 1943 Kuba wagon. They were built by Volkswagen. Volkswagen is important because it literally translates to people's car in German. And this was part of Hitler's pre-war plan to make cars affordable. Volkswagen, of course, built these for the military then, but it's designed basically on a beetle chassis. They were very dependable with a flat bottom. Has a track drive, which means that it can go anywhere a Jeep can, basically. There were 52,000 built, and by comparison, the U.S. made 650,000 Jeeps. So if that tells you anything about the mass production, and also just keeping them supplied and keeping them running in the field. They're a great vehicle. They were designed, like I say, around a tug car, so they don't actually really have a frame. They're just It's kind of the same design, like I say, as a Beetle or any of the other post-war Volkswagen cars. But Germany was never able really to mass produce much of anything. Their designs were somewhat complex and again hard to keep going in the field. And so because of American mass production, there was always a quality and quantity war going on. German vehicles usually were made to a much better standard, but they didn't always, like I said, they weren't always able to keep them going in the field, and they certainly didn't have as many of them. You see a lot of these used in lots of different roles, carrying officers to the front or stuff like that, just carrying troops around the field. They can put 4 guys in there plus a machine gun, and it does have a tremendous power, so again, very similar to the Jeep. So the next vehicle that we see is the British Bren carrier. Are you going to pull it up? Pull it up. All right, so I said that the Army personnel carrier and the Germans and the British were designing the Army personnel carriers in coding. This is the British version. This is actually a T-16 American Universal carrier. It's designed off of the British carrier, made by Ford. They were so successful, the U.S. wanted to adapt them into their arsenal. But this is a fully tracked vehicle. Now, in contrast to the half-track, it means that it's harder to learn to drive. Not really. The British solved that problem by putting steering wheels in their version. The Americans would put normal tank or bulldozer controls in theirs. But it means that it's a little bit harder to drive than a half-track. But it also means that, first of all, it's a lot faster than a half-track. It's not nearly as heavy, as you can tell. And it's, by comparison, able to go more places than a half-track. Half-track shouldn't get stuck, but this is like much more like a tank, so it's able to go, a little bit more off-road, if you will. The design of this started as a 3-man carrier for reconnaissance work, but the British quickly realized that it would be useful in a troop carrying capacity, and put 2 bench seats in the back. The engine actually runs the length of the carrier, and the seats are on either side of the engine for 6 to 7 men, which was a British section. It could also carry a Vickers gun in this case, or a Bren gun in the front. It could tow a light anti-tank gun or artillery piece, and we used it in somewhat of a tractor capacity for a while, just pulling things around, which is what the U.S. liked about them and adapted them into their arsenal. It also could mount a Piat in the back for use that could be taken out of projectile infantry anti-tank, basically the British version of bazooka, could be taken out and used for anti-armor service. There were some variations of these that had a flamethrower in the front. And also twin Vickers K guns on top. So they were very good, very versatile platforms, and again, very, very fast. At high speeds, they were actually designed to turn by using their camber. So like I was explaining to them earlier, if you've ever ridden on a bicycle and turned without using the handlebars, just leaning into the turn, this can do that at very high speeds. It can also then, of course, lock one track to the other and turn on a dime, kind of like a zero-turn lawnmower, but not quite. So it's very versatile at that high speed. The problem with this, though, is that it's open top. And you will see that this actually becomes the design for later armored personnel carrier type vehicles. If you go to the front of the parking lot right behind the Huey helicopter, there was an American version in Vietnam that looks very similar to this, but it is fully enclosed. So this really will be the design for American APCs going forward into Vietnam and beyond. but it is a diesel tank. One quick sort of side step into World War II is that the Russians actually experimented with training dogs, kind of morbid, but training dogs with bombs strapped to them to run under a tank, and it would trigger the mine and blow up the tank. But they trained them on Russian tanks, which burned diesel. German and American tanks run on gasoline, which meant that once they released the dogs in combat for the first time in the test, they honed in on the Russian diesel smell and went right back into the Russian tank. But that's kind of a tangent. What I want to say really, though, is that World War II, of course, was fought by hundreds of people around, millions of people around the world, both in combat and at home. All of these vehicles had to be built in a defense plant, some of them right here in Indiana. They were built by men and women that served in defense plants on the home front here in Indiana. They were built by men and women who served in Britain and all over the world. They were then transported across the ocean to fight a war in Europe and in the Pacific by men and women who manned ships in the Navy, or any of that logistical supply route. Getting them across the ocean was not easy. They were large carriers, and so World War II, we often think of World War II being fought by the guys that landed on the beaches of Normandy or Iwo Jima, and certainly it was. But their efforts are not necessarily any greater than the men and women who were keeping them supplied. And I think that's kind of the unsung story of World War II, is that there were millions of men and women who were keeping those guys in combat. And those stories should not be overshadowed by, the stories of the airborne forces and whatnot, which are certainly important. But there were thousands of men and women who just did menial labor jobs every day, keeping these guys in the field. And if it weren't for them, the guys in the front fighting wouldn't have stood a chance, because they wouldn't have had ammunition or fuel or any of that. And so I think the point is to say that this really was the greatest generation. Everybody stepped up, and everybody participated in so many. That concludes our program today. If you guys want to get in the museum and check it out, definitely do. This is our third event this year. We do have a Vietnam event coming up October 15th, and we will have the Huey helicopter back to do rides. But we do have 4 events a year at the museum, and of course the museum itself is worth checking out, so you may want to explore any one of the museum's membership packages if you want to come back to some of those other events. But if you haven't been in the museum, get in there and check it out. It's definitely worth seeing. If you have been, it's probably worth seeing again, because there's always something new that's happening here. So definitely make it in there before you leave, make it to the gift shop, and support the museum and its efforts. We're only here for this weekend, but we're only here because it's here. And so the museum is a great gem for the city of Vincennes that draws events like this. So if you like seeing events like this happen, support the museum, and we'll definitely be back to give you guys more of a show. If you can, do not use your cell phone.